during when everything started to happen, it was a privilege to be able to, like, I still got to teach and I still got to connect to my students, and I had 20 students all across the country, but I really wanted to connect to them, see how they're doing. It just reminded me of what a privilege and joy it is to teach.
My mother is a Suzuki violin viola teacher, and she started both my sister and I at a very young age, like around 3.5, on violin. And then because I had an older sister and we both played violin, I want, a little bit of sibling rivalry, and I wanted to play something different. And when I was 7, I came home from school one day and I saw this little tiny cello in the corner of the living room. We must have had it for some reason for another student or something. And I asked what that was, and I just wanted to play it. And I was immediately drawn to this bigger instrument than my sister's violin.
It was the fourth grade, and I started in a public school program in a violin class, and they offered free lessons starting from the fourth grade. So they had come around to the classrooms and gave a lecture demonstration with violin and cello. And I just chose violin because it was smaller. Simple as that, for purely practical reasons.
It stems from performing. So in high school, I really knew I wanted to be a performer professionally. It was more just like this passion that was sort of consuming, and it was my outlet to everything in life, musically, socially. I just loved it. And I think the passion for teaching stemmed from the passion of performing and wanting to share.
As a performer, I always knew that I would be teaching because I've always enjoyed it. I always, um, when you're younger, it was my way of just helping others. Then the wisdom and experience sets in, and I felt that urge, that urge to just really want to help, and that desire.
So we chose two pieces because they're both quite short. They're probably 3 minutes, 4 minutes each, maybe 3 minutes. The first one, the Bach, we're choosing to, we've chosen to arrange a Bach cantata for violin and cello. It was originally for an aria for bass, bass singer, and a basso continuo. And um, this particular cantata happens to be about Bach wrote it just a year after the Great Plague of Marseille, and it's about sickness and plagues and hope and um, comfort in times of distress. Bach was really keenly aware of the precarious nature of life, and he was so good at writing music in times of distress, music that confronted issues directly, and it was really fitting that this exact cantata was about plagues. The work itself is we chose the Nimrod from Elgar's Enigma Variations, and I know that we both have a lot of experience with that piece. It speaks to us very deeply, and that's a big part of why we chose that. I mean, I would just want to talk about the story of it because, as some people may know, he wrote all, what is it, 13 variations about his friends. They were all dedicated and written dedicated towards his people around him and his friends and family. And this particular variation refers to a very close friend of his named Augustus Jaeger, who was employed as a music editor and publisher in London. So, yeah, I think Elgar mentions a lot about how encouraging this friend Jaeger was, how he stimulated him to compose despite his setbacks. For instance, once when Elgar was really depressed about writing and actually wanted to just totally give it all up and not write any more music, this friend Jaeger, he visited him and encouraged him to continue composing, and actually brought up, referred to Beethoven. Beethoven, who had so many worries and deep inner turmoil, as well as a lot of suffering, continued, as we know, Beethoven just continued throughout his life to write more and more beautiful music. And basically, his friend Jaeger said to Elgar, "This is what you must do. I know you're suffering. I know you're in pain. I know you feel hopeless. but this is what you must do now. You must compose. It will inspire you, and it will give you comfort and hope. And so that being said, of course, their friendship was so interlocked and so deep, and so that's who Elgar dedicated this beautiful variation to.
The music itself, I mean, it's a reminder of the simplicity of a good melody and the potential of what you can do with that. Um, it's such a simple melody, but just the first phrase, it's these little 2 bar phrases that build up, and he has these very expressive intervals of this major seventh and then minor seventh. You think of the da da. I'm not. You know what? I'm not going to sing, but he writes so well. In those intervals, the expression of those intervals, within the simplicity of the whole, says so much.
And the, that nobility gives hope and comfort to the listener.
I just never knew in modern context that a Bach cantata had talked about a pandemic from 200 years ago, like that was relevant then. And the fact that this is how he reached out to the people, and the cantatas were not just sacred, they were secular as well, and his outpouring and the people that came to listen. I mean, it was kind of like the pop music of what it is now.